Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Pnawn da a chroeso cynnes iawn i'r cae ras a clwb Pêl-droed Wrexham. Wel, dyma ni, diwrnod bwysig iawn yn hanes y clwb. Am y tro cyntaf, da ni, y gefnogwyr, wedi dewis y rheolwr newydd. It's an auspicious day in the history of Wrexham Football Club in what is already a very big year, because for the first time ever, Wrexham Football Club and its supporters have chosen their own manager, and this is the manager that has been chosen. I'm delighted to welcome and introduce to you the new manager of Wrexham Football Club, Kevin Wilkin. Just a little word on the format. You'll see that we've got Kevin and Don and Barry on top table here. One word that should be said, there are other board members who've been involved in this process. And as President of the Supporters Trust, I'd just like to say how much I've been appreciative of the efforts that everybody's put in on this particular process in terms of finding a new manager. I know an awful lot of hard work's gone into it. It was a very open process. I think it was quite unusual, deemed to be quite unusual in football these days. But we waited for people to come to us, and they came in great numbers, and a very high standard of people came to see us as well. So Kevin can count himself a very impressive candidate to have finished up as the man finally appointed at the end of that long and thorough process. So congratulations to the board on conducting it in that manner. Now, on that basis, I'd now like to hand over to Don Bircham, one of the people who's been most heavily involved in the process, to say a few words. We'll then hear from Barry Holm, we'll hear from Kevin, and at the end of all that, there'll be some questions from the floor. Once we've done those, there'll be the opportunity to take the guys outside, and there'll be some one-on-one interviews. So, Don, first, please.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. It was a long and protracted process, but one that we wanted to get absolutely right. I was surprised that the football fraternity and industry thought it was so unusual that we simply advertised for the position of first-team manager. And in fact, Nicky Campbell phoned me from Radio 5 Live to say, is this some sort of gimmick or PR exercise? And they couldn't quite get their heads around the fact that we just simply wanted to do it properly. And that's what we did. And we had 200 applications. We whittled that down to 120. Barry, myself and Spencer Harris, whose particular talent is in HR, we sat down and we read through every single CV. From that 120, we took 10%, we got that to 12. We interviewed all of those candidates. We had them make presentations and we tested them on all the key elements of the job. After that, we reduced that 12 to 3, and along with Billy Barr, of course, and we were then down to a short list of 4. We interviewed them again, we had them present again, and we tested them again, and all the principles and values that were important to us for a new football manager. And without exception, Kevin was the #1 choice of all 3 of us.
Thanks, Don. Barry, if you'd like, now it should be pointed out at this moment as well, you'll have seen in the press release there's a slight change of roles, if you might like to describe it as that, and then on that basis Barry will be taking on a slightly different job in terms of his work with the board from here on in, and Barry will reflect on that now and talk about the process as well.
Yeah, a couple of things for me. Firstly, just to really re-emphasise what Don touched on there, the process was very thorough, and I've just said to Kevin in the back room there, Kevin was in the top of the 120, then each of the 3 of us, he was in the top of the 12, then he met with the full board plus Peter, and he impressed everybody. And one of the things that impressed me mostly was in his presentation, Kevin, it was almost as if Kevin had been present at a workshop day that we had about 6 months ago, when we spoke about where Wrexham sits in the community, what are our values, what are our ambitions, not just on the pitch but off it, in terms of all of the things that I've said on many occasions. The ambition of the board, as far as I'm concerned, we're all concerned, is that we do everything properly. The way that Kevin's been appointed, we think we've done that properly. And Kevin, as I said, his visions, his values, everything about him fitted 100% with what we're trying to do. I think Bryn's introduction there is slightly misleading because Just as on the board, we have a director of finance and we have a director of HR, and Don is the director responsible for commercial activity, and we have a director of IT, etc., etc. We have a director who's responsible for community affairs. I was the director who was more or less responsible for a lot of the football stuff. And whilst we all have an equal voice, we all have roles. So what I'm going to be doing in the future is basically a continuation of that, but hopefully with a bit more visibility, because I'm taking a lot of the workload off what Don's been doing. So the visibility at Colliers Park and getting much more involved in the day-to-day things of running the football side of the business. The director of football is a much loathed term, but essentially it's only become a loathed term obviously because of the connotations of things that have gone on in the past. So a director responsible for football is not what has become in common parlance a director of football. It's nothing to do with that whatsoever. I'm one of 7 who has a responsibility in a particular area of the football club. I'm here to support Kevin, as we all are. I'm here to try to get the best value in everything that we do for the football club, as we all are. So it's not really a change, it's just maybe an expansion of what I was doing previously.
Thanks, Barry. And finally, the man himself, the reason we're all here, Kevin.
Thank you. Firstly, thanks for coming. Can I just say, obviously, to be given the opportunity and at such a fantastic club, where I've previously been, and I've slowly worked my way through with Nuneaton, enjoyed my time massively there. I see this as a next progression for me. You know, fantastic club, great history, and a great opportunity for me to help drive it forward and ultimately get it back in the Football League first and foremost. You know, I've got my ideas about what I want to put into the club. There's loads of good things about this club at the moment. I know it's been through some dark times, as has my previous club. Managed to pull that forward and achieve some promotions off the back of it at some good times. And that's where I want to take this club. It may take a little while to work that around. Players will be the greatest tool to allow me to do that. 1, in winning games, and 2, taking this club into the community. I'd love to link up more with the community, and I just look at this club. I'm from Northampton, where I see Northampton Town as a you know, a bit of a sleeping giant, and I would look at Wrexham as being something similar. I think there's just so much untapped potential within this club that I want to get into that. You know, my values, as the guys have touched on, how I want to do that, where I see players taking it. As I say, they are the greatest link to everybody, really. One we need to achieve on the field, I totally understand that. But I think we can, you know, myself, the board, everybody concerned, if we can all pull this club in the same direction and achieve together and feel good about it. It's important now. Everybody out there in the wider world is, you know, it's difficult. We've been through a recession, and like I say, people need to come to this football club and feel good about what it's doing, and it's massively important that I'm achieving that for you guys, for the board. I want to, you know, prove to them that I made the right choice, and hopefully over the coming year or 2, hopefully I'll prove that. Like I say, it won't be for lack of hard work. I'm going to come here and give it my best, as I did at my previous club. They're in a good state now. Hopefully I can do the same with Wrexham, and who knows, like I say, you know, where it can go and where it can lead to. I just think there's so much potential here. It's perhaps people don't realise it, and I hope I do, and I hope I take us there.
Thank you, Kevin. Now it's your turn. Any questions for any of the chaps on the top table from the floor, please?
Kevin, given the fact that Nuneaton were challenging for promotion, obviously you had no hesitation in swapping that for coming to Wrexham, and obviously I know you want to try and achieve the same thing with us.
Yeah, Nuneaton in a fantastic position, and like I say, you know, I wish them well. I hope they, you know, they go on and achieve a playoff position, which would be great for them as a part-time club with probably the smallest budget in the league or thereabouts. But people have spoken to me about other jobs, and at the time they weren't right for me. You know, I didn't see them being as much as a progression and show as much potential as what Wrexham does for me. I think, and I believe, as hard as I try, I think that people are going to mirror as hard as I try. Certainly the people I've met so far, I feel that way about. As I say, I want everybody to come on board with it and enjoy what we're going to try and do. Try and be attractive in what, you know, the style of play that we want to put on. But most importantly, let's get back in that Football League. I like I say, that was the number one goal for me.
What's the situation, Kevin? You're obviously coming from a rival Premier club. What's been your view of Wrexham's season so far from where you've been?
It's a little bit stop-start, I think. Looking, as an outsider looking in, sometimes you can, things can conspire against you. You can get injuries, suspensions to the wrong sort of players. If there's a lack of discipline in there, which, the disciplinary record of my club at the moment, I think is probably arguably as good as there is at the level. For different reasons, and sometimes some of those reasons can be out of your control. When they end up being out of your control, you need a little bit of lady luck with you at times. Perhaps that's not been there, and for whatever reason, like I say, you can. It's not a consistent thing, football really. You have your highs, you have your lows in it. It's important not to let highs get too high and lows get too low. And like I say, I know the season has started a little bit for Wrexham, and they're not where they should be. But hopefully, if the values they want to instill to certainly that team and those players will end up putting us in that position in coming months, and going on to be successful.
You see Wrexham currently 8 points off the playoffs, 8 points off, well, 10 or 11 points away from the relegation zone. Do you see them as a club fighting relegation, or?
Not really. I think 50 points now. I think you're all but safe. You look at the game the other night, and I think there's a few there that are far more precarious position from that perspective. Can we get in the playoffs? We'll aim at it, but I think the reality is that there's so many up and around and over and above Wrexham at the moment that probably the horse is bolted there. There's people in a better position than what Wrexham are, if I'm being really honest. That's what we'll look for. If we can, we can win all our games, who knows? It might be enough. And I think the reality is that we're not going to make it this season. Like I say, there's other people in more points in probably better place at the moment. You're kind of relying on other people if you are going to try and achieve that.
Have you met the players yet?
Not yet, no. Tomorrow.
Right, and what will be your message to them?
I want to get to know them first and foremost. I want to get out there. I want them to be there and enjoy it. Wherever I've worked, one thing I know they're getting the best out of players is when they know the environment they're working in, what's expected of them. If some need an arm around them, I've proved I'm capable of that. If some need a rollicking at times, equally I can do that. There's decisions to be made. Those players need to understand that any decision I make is not a personal thing, and players can take things very personally. It's just the nature of the beast. But if I explain why I've made the decisions, I think they have a greater chance of understanding my decisions and my reasoning. And I'm perfectly happy to explain to any one of them. My primary goal is getting out there on a Saturday afternoon and winning games. That's the most important thing. However that is achieved, and like I say, if it means upsetting one or two, that's how it has to be. That is the nature of the beast. That's football. We deal with it, we discuss it, we move on, and we look towards the next game. And like I say, managing players is something I think I've done fairly well at. I think people enjoy being around me. I want them to enjoy being around me. I don't want to create a boot camp. I want people to be chomping at the bit to get in and training and work together and work hard together to go and achieve together.
Wrexham only have 5 players under contract going into next season, which I'm sure you're aware of. Do you envisage a big revamp in the summer to try and get us up back at the top end?
I think the beauty of being appointed now is that it gives me a period, a window of time to have a look at that and take real stock of that and get to know those players, understand what they're about as individual, what they offer technically, what they offer mentally as well, whether they're right for the job, whether they understand that Wrexham's a club that has to win week in, week out. That's what we have to do, and we have to set our standards high. Winning is everything, and I need to understand if they've got that, like I say, they're mentally capable of dealing with that. Probably technically, I've dealt with players that are technically capable of delivering, but sometimes, like I say, the mental side it lets them down a little bit. Good for one game, poor for 3. We can't have that in Wrexham. We need people, that are bummed onto it and can do it week in, week out. And as I say, this period of time from now until the end of the season will give me a little bit of time and flexibility to understand that, what we need, make sure everybody's buying into this club moving forward, and make sure come the start of next season we're good to go and we'll hit the ground running.
Do you have an assistant in place?
Not at the moment.
No.
Not at the moment. Barry will help me. Michael will help me if need be, and somebody appears in the meantime, that may be the case. But again, I want to get a feel for it myself, feel what we need and what we don't need. And then really, if I can take a bit of stock of the whole situation and then make some decisions. Some will be made, fairly promptly, I'd imagine. Some not. But again, you need the right people around you, and that's one thing that where I've come from, and one thing I never lose sight of is that I'm only as good as the team that I have around me. I sit here today as probably the beneficiary of Nuneaton doing very, very well, but they've only done well because I've put a fantastic team around me, from the kit man, right the way to physio, everybody concerned, and ultimately the players have been proved they're capable to, at the moment, last the distance.
Will you be selecting the team yourself for Saturday's game against Salisbury?
Yeah, I'll obviously speak to the guys around and about, Michael and Barry as well, and we'll have discussions about it, and we'll make a decision off the back of that.
Obviously, you'll have a first training session tomorrow anyway to get to quickly know a few of them, and then take it from there and discussions with the relevant people.
Yeah, I can't wait to get going. I can't get how excited I am about sitting here today, and I want tomorrow to come. I'm like a kid at Christmas. I want to get out there. I want to get working with them and feel what they're all about and where they can take it. And like I say, let's get out there smiling and having a go and achieving.
Can I ask, presumably you're part-time manager at Nuneaton?
Yes.
Obviously with a part-time club.
Yeah.
So how big a decision was it for you to sort of say, right, I'm going to be a full-time manager? Have you had to give up a job, for example?
Yeah, I've had a job that I work sort of 60 hours a week at, and coupled together that and the time that I put into football, I was very focused on what I did, and I remain that way. Whatever time needs to be put into this, I'm more than happy to put into it. Big believer, you only get out what you put in. Like I say, it wasn't a tough decision. I had 1 or 2 issues at the job I was at prior to Christmas. And the biggest thing is coming to, like I say, such a massive club. It's a no-brainer for me. The chance to represent this club, as I say, it's a no-brainer.
Okay, everyone? Any more?
You got a prediction for the score on Saturday?
I want to stick with neck. You're a gambling man. Can't help you. Can't help you just yet.
Yeah, it's 5.
Can I, sorry, if everybody else is finished regarding Wrexham, I've just been asked by my colleagues on the commentary and Telegraph to ask you 1 or 2 questions.
Sure.
How do you feel about, have you got a message first of all for the Nuneaton fans?
Yeah, I think, like I say, I leave it there with a little bit of a heavy heart. I've had some fantastic times there, but I think when you look at it, the whole reality of it, and hopefully I've left a little bit of a legacy there. I think we're in a fantastic position. They've got some fantastic players that have, over a period of time, we've developed technically and mentally, and they've proved, like I say, this far forward, that they're able to cope with the demands of this league, even being a part-time club that train Tuesday and Thursdays. There's some guys there that don't get paid a great deal of money, is the reality of it, and they're just a fantastic bunch. The supporters stay with the team. It's in a good state, and like I say, I have every confidence now they can go on and still make the playoffs, and who knows, they could achieve a promotion, which would be absolutely, I'd be more, prouder than anybody if they were able to do that.
And I was asked to ask you, did you have a contract at Nuneaton?
No.
Okay. Well, there we go. That's the end of the formal bit of the press conference. We will adjourn to the outside now. Just to add that it's, on my part, it's been a fantastic day for this football club, to be honest with you. We've had the announcement involving Glyndŵr University as well, which is going to be very exciting for next season. And we've got the new guy in place at the helm now, so we're all looking forward, I hope, to celebrating our 150th year in full next season with a fantastic season of football. And I think we're all joined together in wishing Kevin the very best of luck, and thank him for coming to join us. Thanks, Kevin.